VoiceAmerica.com.
Welcome to Crime Prevention 101 with host Susan Bartelstone. We're so happy you've joined us this weekend. Over the next hour, you'll learn the tips, tricks, and vital information that'll help you keep yourself confident and safe. Now, here's the host of Crime Prevention 101, Susan Bartelstone.
And good afternoon, everybody. And welcome to Crime Prevention 101. The personal safety radio show with the optimistic perspective on a very sober subject. And I've got some great tips and resources and inspiring success stories for you today. Now, I know that most people's holidays are just about to begin if you're listening to this show today. And I hope that despite what's going on with the economy and the rising crime rate, that you are keeping yourself optimistic and hopeful. And I thank you so much for spending some time with me today, because I'm going to try and help you stay optimistic and hopeful and safe and warm for this little hour that we are together. And whatever your past is and whatever your financial or family situation is, I really hope today's show gives you some hope that even if life seems bleak, it can turn around. Now, continuing on today's show with the theme for the theme of the month of December, and in the spirit of redemption and hope, I'm going to introduce you to Wayne Gurman, who is an actor and an independent filmmaker who was just about to enter the criminal justice system, but he changed his life instead. And he tells his whole life story via a new film called Bronx Paradise. And I've also got Bill Lappe, William, but I'm calling him Bill Lappe, who directed the film here today. And wait till you hear about his background. And I'm just so interested about how this all came about for them. But before I introduce you to my guest, I have a mailbag item for you. And again, I have a website, guerilla-style, where people can send me emails asking me about safety problems that they have or comments. And I got a comment from somebody, and he said, Dear Safety Solutions, I think one area that people should be aware of, given the economy and the fear that people have about losing their jobs, is that theft within offices is on the rise. For many people, jobs and hours and wages are reduced, and in anger or out of frustration, employees steal from fellow employees and see it as an entitlement rather than a crime. And he says, I'm talking about purses being stolen, personal mementos and office supplies disappearing, and so on. 3 of my business clients have reported theft and fraud, and he signs it anonymous, no city. And I also got an email about a teacher, from a so-called good neighborhood, good school, etc., who had her purse stolen right out of her desk drawer during a bathroom break, and she says she now carries it wherever she goes. So I just wanted to bring it up. I hate when I see this kind of thing happen. It's really important to stay alert for this kind of thing, because it may be, as this writer has said, that it's going to happen more often due to outer circumstances. So I did want to mention that comment. And please send me your comments and your concerns to yoursafetysolutions.com. I'm happy to talk with you about them, talk about them on the air, and so forth. Now, I know that our last-minute shopping is coming up, so I've got a few more tips for you for staying safe over the weekend and for the next few days. So I'm going to talk about safety in parking lots. And by the way, the last 2 shows I did in December have included really good shopping safety tips and some gift suggestions. So if you haven't had a chance to listen to those shows, listen to last week's show and the week before in my December shows. Now, in crowded malls or any crowded spots, the only parking spots that might be available are in the outer edge of the shopping center in an isolated area. Sometimes they're not so well lit, although most shopping malls, big ones, certainly know that they need to do that. So I'm going to talk about what to do if you find yourself in a deserted lot when you're leaving, and I'm also going to talk about some cyber scams, holiday scams. Now, as I always say it, there are no absolutes in a crime scenario. No advice can possibly address every variable. You got to analyze each situation individually and respond only in the way that you deem is best. But it's my aim on this radio show to give you the kind of information and options that's going to help you make that instinctive assessment very quickly. So let's talk about parking lots and shopping malls. Now, I hear this all the time. If you're late to your car, if you're coming out late from shopping and it's a little deserted or isolated or you feel concerned, go to the security guard at the mall and ask him to accompany you to your car. And that's a really good idea. I like that. But if there are 100 people who feel a little nervous about walking to their car and there's 3 or 4 security guards, you might actually have a very long wait before you get to your car. So here's a couple of other options for you that you might consider. First of all, go shopping with another person if you can at all, because that way you're not walking alone, and that's going to reduce your vulnerability and your targetability a little bit. You got to keep that charged cell phone handy for immediate assistance in case something's wrong. And if you've got a camera phone, you might be able to catch the thief or the assailant in the act. I like to advise people to carry pepper spray is another tip. And if you're a little hesitant, if you don't know exactly what pepper spray is or how to use it, I see we got my guest children in the background. I love it. If you don't know how to use pepper spray, go to my DearSafetySolutions.com website to the safety tips section. There's a whole tip sheet on how to use pepper spray. So that's so if you can't wait for the security guard, here's a couple of other options. Of course, you want to try and park as close to the stores as you can and in a spot that's well lit. If you can't, and you know you're going to be shopping late, here's a little trick. You might be able to move the car closer after a little while. So if you've got the time, check the parking lot from time to time to see if anything else is opened up. And you may be able to move your car closer at that point so that if you're going to shop late, you won't be coming out and have to walk to the far end of the field. Also, don't leave anything visible in the car while you're shopping. I mean, even something you are absolutely positive that nobody would want. It's still too tempting for a thief to break in and take a look. And a lot of times people will hide something under a jacket or something like that. So thieves know that, and if they see something, they might be tempted. Put everything that you can into the trunk of the car before you get to the shopping mall. Don't open the trunk after you park, because these thieves are there looking for people. They're lurking in the parking lot, and they're looking for people who do that. And if you have to stow your purchases in your car from time to time, like say you take my advice and you're gonna come out and see if you can move your car and put your purchases in the car, you got to move your car to another parking spot, just in case someone is lurking there and sees that you put presents in the trunk. This may not work in a really crowded mall where parking spots are at a premium, so you might also want to consider having your purchases delivered to you at home. It's a small price maybe to pay for peace of mind. All right, so that's just a couple of tips. I'm going to have more tips for you at the end. I want to now get to my guests. I want to introduce them before we come up on our break. First of all, my first guest is Wayne Gurman. And Wayne was a cocaine dealer and a bookie. And he hung out with people he describes as racist killers, though he claims he never did those things himself. He turned his life around after being arrested and avoiding prison and getting another chance. And he is the writer and star of the upcoming film Bronx Paradise, which tells the story of his life fighting against the odds to find paradise. I love that. He was described by one reviewer as a nasty protagonist who punches, curses, and road rages his way through life, and every race and ethnic group takes a hit. I like that. Equal hate. And he refers to this as just another day in the Bronx, baby. And my second guest is William Lappe. I'm calling him Bill. Worked for 20 years as a police officer in the Bronx. He turned down, he was a detective, he turned down a promotion to follow his heart and and he became a writer and an editor and a visual effects designer. And he is the director of Wayne's film, Bronx Paradise. He's also made several other movies. And he said his directorial philosophy is that there's plenty of drama going on around us without having to make it up. And that being a police officer, he was surrounded by real-life horror stories every single day. So, Wayne, Bill, welcome to Crime Prevention 101.
Thank you very much, Susan. This is Wayne.
Hi, guys. All right, so Wayne, let's start with you. Just briefly, because we're coming up on our break, tell me your story. How old were you, and how old were you when you started getting into trouble? Where were you from? How did you get into this?
All right, I was
life
born.
of crime?
Yes, I understand. I was born and raised in the Bronx, and at the age of 19, a friend of mine came to me, and I was never involved in crime, maybe petty stuff, but a friend of mine came to me at the age of 19, and he says, Wayne, how about we start selling cocaine? And I says to him, get out of here. What are you, crazy? I never even thought about selling cocaine. I thought about it for a week or two. And I said, you know what? A lot of my friends do cocaine. So I said, I was broke, and I says, why don't I try it? So that I started selling cocaine in the year 1983, the end of 83, and it lasted till the year 1999 for 16 years. And in that span, I was also a bookie and a loan shark.
And you never got caught?
No. Well, I was arrested in 1999. The police came to my house.
Bill, where were you all this time? He's out there doing this.
Who's that, Billy?
Billy.
Well, you know what it is.
You didn't catch him. He was out there a long time.
For everybody who gets caught, I can guesstimate that there's probably 5,000 to 10,000 who don't get caught. And
I was actually going to ask you if that's how you met him. Wayne, was he the one that eventually caught you in 1999?
No. That would make a wonderful story, wouldn't it?
It would.
No.
We can write that if you want, though.
Yeah. What's the task force, Billy, that arrests you for? They came to my house. I used to take gambling action out of my house. I used to answer phones on Super Bowl Sunday. And what's that task force called, Billy?
Organized crime. Well, it's organized OCCB, which is the Organized Crime Control Bureau.
That's how they got you. I love it. All right, guys, we're coming up on a break.
Okay.
Hold that thought. When we come back, I'm going to find out more about what happens in the Bronx. That's the Bronx, baby, right? I love it. Just another day in the Bronx.
Baby.
Just another day in the Bronx. Okay, going to break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Okay.
News, opinion, your voice counts. Call toll-free 1-866-472-5787. 1-866-472-5787. VoiceAmerica.com. After more than 17 years' experience teaching safety skills to thousands of women and men, crime prevention and personal safety expert Susan Bartelstone concluded that by thinking and responding quickly, ideally within 20 seconds, potentially violent criminal encounters can be prevented. Using techniques from many different disciplines and illustrated by 60 real-life examples and success stories, Susan shows how it's done in her new book, Think Fast and Prevent a Violent Crime: How to Respond to Danger in 20 Seconds or Less. Check out www.fightsafe.com fightsafe.com for more information. You'll also find information there on Susan's upcoming Crime Prevention 101 personal safety teleseminars. Think fast, talk fast, fight smart, which stress the many opportunities you have to deter or defuse a criminal encounter and how to use your brains instead of your muscles in a fight. Look for the new book information or sign up for Susan Bartelstone's personal safety seminars at www.fightsafe.com today. Have you ever thought about having your own internet talk show? Well, if you said yes, then click About Us. Then click Be a Host to get more information. Or just call Jeff Spinard at 480-294-6417.
Say that again?
480-294-6417. VoiceAmerica.com.
You're listening to Crime Prevention 101 with Susan Bartelstone. We invite you to share your stories, tips, or suggestions for topics you'd like us to cover, and Susan will address some of these on future shows. Send your story or idea to solutions@fightsafe.com. That email address again is solutions@fightsafe.com. Now back to Crime Prevention 101 with Susan Bartelstone.
Welcome back, everybody. Crime Prevention 101, and I'm talking with Wayne Gurman, who is about his film Bronx Paradise and his life and how it got turned around, and Bill Lappe, who also was a detective and is now working in the same industry and was the director of Wayne's film. Now, Wayne, let's get back to you a little bit. How many years have you been straight now?
Okay, let me finish that story. So
you actually got caught for being a bookie.
Yes, well, they caught me. They came to my house because they knew I was taking sports action on the phone, and they came to my house. I was also a drug dealer at the time. I was still selling drugs, and they caught me, and I had a loaded gun in the house. So here's the deal: they came to the house, they got the loaded gun, they got the sports stuff. And it's a long story, which I won't get into, but I seen them coming in. They tried a little ploy. They brought a pizza box to the front door, and they tried. And I knew it was the cops. It took me about 20 seconds to realize it was the cops. They said, "Oh, we got a pizza delivery for you," and I says, "No, I didn't order pizza." And if I would open the door, I guess he would have pulled out the gun and said, "Get on the floor." But I didn't open the door. I sent him away, and I sat down. I was answering phones. You know, there was a Super Bowl game that day. And I said, wait a minute. And I got up again. I looked out the window. There was 8 guys standing outside my house. And I said, uh-oh, police. So I actually took the drugs I had in the house, the paraphernalia and the drugs. I ran downstairs. I hid it in a baby carriage under the stairs. Now, they came in the house. This is as they're coming in. They were coming in through the back door, the front door, everywhere, breaking in at this point. And by the time I got upstairs, they were already in the house. And they pulled their guns. They told me to get down. So the course of the day, they were there about 4 hours. They were talking to me. We were joking, laughing, blah, blah, blah. They found the gun. They found the gambling. They tried to make me feel very comfortable.
It's a very friendly bust.
Yes. And the whole time I'm sweating my butt off, thinking if they find these drugs, I'm definitely going to jail. I knew I had the loaded gun, and that was bad enough. That was going to be I was assessing the situation as we were going. Mm-hmm. So I said, if they found the drugs, I'm dead. And the drugs are downstairs. I guess they were happy with the gun, the loaded gun. So they sent one guy downstairs, and he didn't find it. And when I came back the next 2 days later, when I got out of jail, I seen that the baby carriage was moved and something on top of it was taken off. I put it under the baby carriage. How we didn't see the suitcase full of stuff was amazing. So from that day on, I said, that's it. I did it 16 years. I gave it up. I had just started acting. I said, you know what? Let me refocus my life. Let me do something. This is not going to work because I just had.
You saw the handwriting on the wall.
I did. I was smart enough to see the handwriting on the wall. My son was 7 at that point, and thank God he wasn't home. He was out for the day with my parents, and I just said, you know what? This is no way to raise a kid and to live life. I've done enough.
And you've got a couple of kids now, right?
I have 4 kids now. I have 3 little girls, 6, 5, and 4.
Oh.
Yeah, so I have 4 kids now who I raise, pretty much by myself primarily. So that's my life. Now I'm an actor. I made a couple of films.
So now, what made you want to be an actor, and what made you want to write this film?
Well, I took up acting just a little while before I was arrested, and I just wanted to challenge myself to do something different in life, just do something that would really challenge me as a person. I I'd been a drug dealer and this, that, and half a tough guy in the Bronx. And I says, "You a real tough guy. I want to see if I can challenge myself to be vulnerable and to do something like acting." And I did. I took the classes. I loved it. I felt like exhilarating just taking classes. It was an exhilarating feeling. And the reason I made the movie was it's a tough world to be an actor. So I decided to make a movie about my life because I knew I had an interesting background with many experiences and the way I lived my life throughout the years of selling drugs and doing other things. And the experiences I had, I always said it'd make a great movie, so I decided to make a movie about that. And that's how I met Billy, and things are going.
All right, in fact, now, Bill, let me bring you in here. Tell me a little bit about how you went from being a cop to getting into the film industry to eventually getting to work with Wayne on this project.
Okay, I was born and raised in the South Bronx, not the same neighborhood Wayne came from. I came from actually 174th and Noble Avenue.
And you guys did not know each other?
No, we didn't know each other. And actually in my neighborhood, being a white kid in my neighborhood, you were a minority. And being a filmmaker in my neighborhood, you were even more of a minority because there was no odds. If you told kids in my neighborhood you wanted to be a filmmaker, they thought you were making porn. They were like, oh, and I was like, no, I'm not making porn. I want to be a filmmaker. At a very young age, I always wanted to be a filmmaker. I used to be into stop motion animation. My father, who was a bit of a film historian, even though he was a New York City sanitation man, he loved movies since a child. He was born and raised in the Bronx, and he always enamored me into films, either James Cagney films when I was a kid. So I was always an artist. I turned 20 years old, graduating Mount St. Michael Academy. I had never did any drugs or any pot or any coke or anything like that. I was pretty much a straight kid. I mean, I drank from time to time, but I really didn't get involved in drugs. I was a quasi-athlete, and I wanted. And
eventually, you became a cop, right?
Well, I wanted to go to art school, and my father couldn't afford me on a sanitation salary, and there was no such thing, or he wouldn't believe in me taking out student loans. He said, listen, Billy, there's no real ads in the newspaper for friggin' artists, so maybe you should get a job first. So I took the fireman, cop, sanitation, and the cop school first. So I never really had a desire to become a cop. But as it happened, I became a cop, and I was a cop in the South Bronx back in the 80s. And I'm talking as far south in the Bronx as you can go, on 149th Street and 3rd Avenue, 138th Street, and back then, there was homicides 2,000 a year in New York City, so I was in the belly of the beast.
And for those of people that are listening that are not New Yorkers, this was a hopping neighborhood in terms of crime.
Right, it's not the kind or gentle in New York City we all know today. And this was pre-Giuliani. This is even pre-Dinkers. This is the Koch era and left over from the Beam era. So the crime was at an all-time high. I mean, you'd go a week. Matter of fact, one of the taglines from the movie, The Bronx Where Only the Strong Survive, stumbled upon, I came across a homicide, and there was a person laying in the street, a white kid, who came into the South Bronx to buy drugs, and he was laying there with a bullet in his head, and he had a T-shirt on that said, The Bronx Where Only the Strong Survive. And I looked at my partner, and we kind of like chuckled. I was like, I guess this wasn't one of the strong ones, you know? And there was gallows humor there. But this is what the world was like 20, 25 years ago that people seem to forget. So having said that, I mean, I was a cop for 10 years, but I always still wanted to be an artist. So about 7 years into my police career, I went back to the School of Visual Arts and to pursue miniature model making and art and filmmaking. And I did a bunch of films related to my life in the South Bronx, whether it was drug dealers or pedophiles and stuff like that.
You have plenty of material for films, I'm thinking, right?
Yeah, well, that's what it was. Based on the incidents that I saw or witnessed, I turned them into short films. I ran into Wayne after I had retired. I retired.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. How did you guys actually meet, since you didn't arrest him?
Well, this is the fun. I had never crossed circles with Wayne, but we had mutual friends, but we had never known about each other. And it's just, I guess that's the way the world works. He knew guys who were criminals who were also cops, and I knew guys who were cops, and I also knew some guys who were characters, but I didn't know Wayne per se, but we had mutual friends. So I had been retired about a year, and somebody had told me that there was a guy videotaping on Tremont Avenue, which is in our neighborhood. Now I had moved from the South Bronx to the Northeast Bronx, and there was Wayne on the corner with a video camera, and I had walked over to him. I said, hey, how you doing? My name is Bill. And he goes, I'm sorry, officer. He says, I'm sorry, officer, I don't have a permit and I don't have this. I go, I'm not a cop. And he goes, I know, officer. He made me for a cop as I walked over to him, even though I had been retired. I guess it's hard.
And let me just stop you there, because this is an interesting point that some of my listeners might not know, but there are people who you can kind of tell when somebody is a police officer. I sometimes think I can do it myself. If I'm looking around and I'm on the trains, because there's a way that they look and they talk and that they act, right, Wayne?
Yes, absolutely. When Billy approached me, I just smelled. I'm sorry to cut you off, Susan.
I've never met Bill, but I bet I could pick him out too.
Yeah, I just knew the way. I just knew it the way he approached me. I just. Not that I'm. I just a sense I had about me that he was a police officer. I didn't know that he was coming just to say, "Hey, I'm a filmmaker." Also, it just
based on your past, you recognize
the approach that he had was smelled of a police officer. Not that that's bad.
So when you two got together, you realized you might actually be able to work together.
Well, what happened was he told me he was a filmmaker, and I just kind of said, "Okay, great, whatever." And then I knew about a short film that he did called Even Steven, and we became, friendly through that. He screened Even Steven. We actually screened my short film and his short film together in a local spot. And I saw how dedicated Billy was and how talented he was. And when came time to do the feature film Bronx Paradise, I says I couldn't find a better director, and I asked Billy to direct that, and we've been good friends, since then, for the last couple of years since we started making the film.
And when did he find out about your background?
Well, he knew right away, because the film Bottom Feeder that I was shooting was about, it was a day in the life. It was a short film. I did a short for, it was figured Bronx Paradise was a short. It was called Bottom Feeder. And it was a day in the life of a stressed out bookie, loan shark, drug dealer. So Billy
And just like anything, Susan, I mean, we had mutual friends, so it was only a matter of time. I said, hey, you know this guy Wayne? And they were like, yeah, he used to be this, this, and this. I'm sure he did the same thing and said, hey, what's with this guy Billy? And, oh, yeah, he used to be this, this, and this.
Right.
So there was a street code of ethics also, which is sometimes, that we knew that, okay, he did what he did, I do what I do, but that had nothing to do with the fact that we're both artists trying to get a vision out there, trying to get a statement, stuff that he had been exposed to, which after reading the script, I said, this is all real. And, I mean, aside from the fabricated parts, but they could be real too. And there was a certain realism to his short film, and I think there was a certain realism to my short film. And it said, and Valerie Smaldone, who's a friend of mine, and it was also a host, also said, there's something about the Bronx, and the Bronx is the real deal. That's her quote. So when I met Wayne, it was like the real deal personified. We got all this stuff out there, and it's very hard to get that into 2 hours without being over the top. But it is over the top because that's what our life pretty much was for 20 years, or it still is. It's an over the top look at the life me and Wayne experienced.
That's one of the reasons that I wanted to bring you both on the show today, because we're talking about redemption. When people could see what it's really kind of like out there, and to have been involved in crime for so long, and now to show people what it is, and the fact that you're not any longer involved in it. That's kind of amazing. Now, I want to. We're coming up on a break. I'm going to break now because when we come back, I want to talk about Bronx Paradise and about the just the nitty-gritties of the film and what your hopes are for the films and so forth. So, hold that thought, everybody. We're going to be right back.
Ask the experts. Call toll-free right now, 1-866-472-5787. And ask our All-Star team to answer your question. That's 1-866-472-5787.
Thank you for calling.
VoiceAmerica.com. After more than 17 years' experience teaching safety skills to thousands of women and men, crime prevention and personal safety expert Susan Bartelstone concluded that by thinking and responding quickly, ideally within 20 seconds, potentially violent criminal encounters can be prevented. Using techniques from many different disciplines and illustrated by 60 real-life examples and success stories, Susan shows how it's done in her new book, Think Fast and Prevent a Violent Crime: How to Respond to Danger in 20 Seconds or Less. Check out www.fightsafe.com for more information. You'll also find information there on Susan's upcoming Crime Prevention 101 personal safety teleseminars. Think fast, talk fast, fight smart, which stress the many opportunities you have to deter or defuse a criminal encounter and how to use your brains instead of your muscles in a fight. Look for the new book information or sign up for Susan Bartelstone's personal safety seminars at www.fightsafe.com today.
Talk, talk, talk. That's all we do is talk. If you'd like to talk, call us toll-free right now at 1-866-472-5787. 1-866-472-5787.
That's it.
VoiceAmerica.com.
You're listening to Crime Prevention 101 with Susan Bartelstone. We invite you to share your stories, tips, or suggestions for topics you'd like us to cover, and Susan will address some of these on future shows. Send your story or idea to solutions@fightsafe.com. That email address again is solutions@fightsafe.com. Now back to Crime Prevention 101 with Susan Bartelstone.
And welcome back again, everybody. And talking about miracles and redemption with writer and actor Wayne Gurman and writer, actor, producer, director, whatever, Bill Lappe. And we're going to talk about the film that they collaborated on together. It's called Bronx Paradise. I have to say I love that name. How did that name come about, first of all?
Okay, we were trying to think of a name. Originally it was called Bottom Feeder. Like the short. Then we said
because
bottom
this
feet.
is the time we were talking about right before, where it was really not a paradise.
No.
Correct.
It's an oxymoron, you could call
yes.
it.
So this is a tongue-in-cheek title, maybe.
Yes, exactly. In a way.
Especially if you happen to be from New York or even from the Bronx.
So
for those listening that may not know, this is kind of an interesting title.
But also, you know, what's one man's garbage is another man's gold. And even though growing up for me and Wayne wasn't the best place, it was still it's our borough. We lived there. We still love it to a certain extent.
That's why I said
so I want to make that clear before we bashing the Bronx. We do love the Bronx. We do love it, and we do.
Yes.
The Bronx made us the men who we are today, and along with countless other people. But it's certainly a tongue-in-cheek. Bronx Paradise.
Thank you, Adolfo. Carry on. Very, very well.
Maybe looking for that paradise. All right.
Anyway, Susie.
So how did you come up with this name?
Yes. Well, Bronx Paradise, we were thinking of the perfect name for the movie. We wanted to include the Bronx because the movie just reeked of the Bronx, which good and bad. You know, we're from the Bronx, and it just it had a certain flavor to it. And so we thought for a long time. It took us quite a while. And finally, James McSherry, right, Billy, came up with the name? Yes. James McSherry, who's a good friend of ours, and he's a co-producer, and he's an accomplished writer. He's a published writer. He named the movie Bronx Paradise, and then I came up with the after he named it, it popped in my head about a week later to have me sitting in the middle of Fordham Road in the Bronx in a beach chair. I don't know, Susan, have you seen the cover to the film yet or no?
I am embarrassed to say I have not, and
okay.
I'm going to make sure that I do. I want to go see this picture.
Yeah, if you go to BronxParadise.com, let me get that website in before.
Yes, indeed, BronxParadise.com.
Yeah, so you can look up the website, and it has the picture of me sitting in the middle of Fordham Road in the middle of winter, actually, in a beach chair with in my Caribbean wear with my cigar and my drink in my hand.
And we actually filmed that on Fordham Road with him in a pair of shorts in the wintertime, and nobody turned their head. We just put him right in the middle of Fordham Road in a beach chair. We in the middle of the street, and people walked by like it was a summer day, and there was nothing wrong with the whole scene. So
just another day in the Bronx, baby, right?
Another day in the Bronx, baby.
Yes. So, Susan,
that is absolutely a characteristic of the whole of New York. that you can see the most bizarre things on the street, and nobody really, they just sort of walk right on by.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. These are people that could see a dead body in the street and walk by.
Yep.
Because
you do see a lot of strange things, so it doesn't surprise me that nobody reacted to him being out there in his shorts in the winter.
No.
With a beach umbrella.
I mean, they've seen the camera there, so I guess they said, okay, they're filming something. And
all right, so now let's talk about the film. What did you want to show about life in the Bronx and your life, or tell me about this?
All right, Billy's a smarter guy than me. Billy, you want to answer?
Okay, Billy, why don't you do it then?
Well, immediately, it's very hard to make a character. We had talked about the script that he had written. It was very hard to make a character like Wayne's character, and who Wayne, make him to be likable, because he's dealing with the negative all day, and you become a negative person, whether it's your foul language or whether it's your attitude towards life, and it's very hard to make somebody like that likable. However, I think we might have achieved it because from the test screenings that we had, people seem to be enamored to Wayne. I mean, he's just a guy trying to make his way. I mean, my wife, who's a social worker, put it great. He might have been a drug dealer and a bookie, but these people have lives too, and they have family, they have kids, and how does it's not Tony Soprano. This is the real thing. I mean, a guy's trying to make a living and trying to support his family, and at the same time, however, he's doing illegal activity. So you might be, you kind of have a soft spot for a character like that. So
and it's a dimension people don't think about when they think about criminals and people doing criminal activities. That there's a humanity still.
Yeah, it's the sad part of police work, too, that, somebody has to suffer. A father's going to jail, a mother's working the street, and where's the kid? He's home, trying to stay warm under a pilot light, which I've been exposed to. Meanwhile, it's a terrible world, but people seem to forget about that. I mean, we're worried about other countries. You got enough problems right here in New York City to worry about, and people seem to avoid that. So Wayne's showing this in his movie, and at the same time, we said, this is a very hard movie. So, but at the same time, it's a very funny movie. I mean, it's kind of bizarre in the fact that it's a satire. It's a satire on many different films. It's also a satire on Bronx life and over the topness of everything that happened in one person's day. So we basically took 20 years of Wayne's life and encapsulated into a 2-hour movie. But at the same time, it's very funny, the movie. People are very disappointed because you see the trailer, it's like, wow, this is a hard movie. But then they see the movie, and they say, not only is it a hard movie, but they left their behinds off for 2 hours. And that's an element of the film that we want to get out there. It's supposed to be funny. It's tragically funny sometimes.
Yeah,
I mean, there's certain scenes in the movie where people are getting killed, and the audience people are laughing, and it's not meant to be funny. So that makes kind of like a statement on society in general, like how messed up are we? Something violent is happening on the screen, and we're laughing to mask the tears, so to speak. But
is there kind of a happy ending? I mean, is there redemption in this film at all?
Yes, there is, absolutely.
Yes, there is. And when you see the movie, it's like a little twist. It's like you could take the boy out of the Bronx, and hopefully you can take the Bronx out of the boy. And you'll have to see the movie to find out what happens. But, yes, there is a redemption at the end of the movie.
Now, how can people see this movie?
Well, we're currently seeking distribution for the movie. We just finished the post-production process. We had some test screenings. We had a couple of private screenings after the test screenings, and we've finally finished modifying the movie to where we feel it's perfect in our eyes, as perfect as it's going to get. And I am currently in the process of sending out to distributors. Put it this way, I sent the movie out to one distributor, and this company, I'm not going to mention the name right now, but the reason I sent it out to them because one of our actors knew them, blah, blah, blah. So I said, you know what, let me just see what this guy says, this company. And he says to me, he called me up, he says, Wayne, this movie is so good. I want you to shop it to all the major companies first. And then if that doesn't work, shop it to the second-tier companies, like Miramax and, whatever, all those other ones. And he says, if you don't get this movie sold, which I think you will, come back to me in a year, and we'll get you a video deal. He's a vendor that sells to Blockbuster and Netflix and all those other ones. And he says to me, the movie's so good, and I respected where this guy was coming from. Instead of trying to say, okay, Wayne, come sign with us now, blah, 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 he did send the contract right over, which I didn't sign. But he says, come back to me in a year, and we'll get you in a video release if you don't get theatrical release on the movie.
So if people are kind of interested in keeping track of this, or whether they might be able to see it as a movie or as a video, they should probably just, do you have a mailing list or something?
No, they got to go to BronxParadise.com and just check all the different things. There's a news section there that'll tell you what's happening. We're currently going to do a festival run for the next year. During that time, I'm going to seek distribution. That's the game plan. I don't have much experience in this end of the business, but this is my game plan, and I feel it's strong. And, we're doing the New York. Hopefully, we get accepted into the major festivals, and if not, we definitely will be getting into festivals, doing the festival circuit. And they can just log on to BronxParadise.com, and there's emails for both Wayne and myself up there. And with any questions, we're not taking any scripts, so don't send any scripts. But if you want to comment on the movie, and I mean that's silly because it's like sometimes you get bombarded with stuff. But we're definitely.
I was going to ask you what your goals were for the future, but obviously you're not looking to do more films of this sort right now, I guess.
No, Wayne is looking to act. Wayne is definitely an actor, and he's out there looking to act, and I'm looking to direct.
And I want him out there acting rather than doing anything that might even be remotely criminal.
That life life ended 9 years ago.
And Wayne, I sincerely hope that the lesson that you're portraying in the film and in the way that you're living your life now does inspire some people that they can get out, they can make a change, maybe through creativity or however it's going to be. Right. But I'd like to think, I don't know if that was an intention of yours when you made the film, but I hope people do get that out of it. Well, I certainly think, as I said, I would rather you being there and hustling your film than hustling drugs or anything else.
Yeah, like I said, that life was a long time ago. I was smart enough to get out. My wake-up call came in 1999 when I was arrested. Yep. I was lucky enough not to go to prison, even though I had a loaded gun. I had a very good lawyer.
Yeah, you were definitely on the brink. That's for sure. So this is fantastic.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And Bill, I'm so glad that you're following your dream. It's dangerous for cops out there, no matter how good you are or how tough you are. So I'm thrilled to have had both of you on the show. I want to come when you have the red carpet. I want to be invited.
Sure.
To the premiere.
Thank you very much. I want to thank you and your audience, and just have a happy holiday season, I guess.
Yeah,
that's right.
Thank you for everything.
Thank you very much, and it's BronxParadise.org. And we're coming up on
.com.
BronxParadise.com. Sorry. We're coming up on our last break, everybody. I've got more holiday safety tips, how to stay safe at home for the holidays, and some cybercrime tips. So stay tuned.
Have you ever thought about having your own internet talk show? Well, if you said yes, then click About Us. Then click Be a Host to get more information. Or just call Jeff Spinard at 480-294-6417.
Say that again?
480-294-6417. VoiceAmerica.com. After more than 17 years' experience teaching safety skills to thousands of women and men, crime prevention and personal safety expert Susan Bartelstone concluded that by thinking and responding quickly, ideally within 20 seconds, potentially violent criminal encounters can be prevented. Using techniques from many different disciplines and illustrated by 60 real-life examples and success stories, Susan shows how it's done in her new book, Think Fast and Prevent a Violent Crime: How to Respond to Danger in 20 Seconds or Less. Check out www.fightsafe.com for more information. You'll also find information there on Susan's upcoming Crime Prevention 101 personal safety teleseminars. Think fast, talk fast, fight smart, which stress the many opportunities you have to deter or defuse a criminal encounter and how to use your brains instead of your muscles in a fight. Look for the new book information or sign up for Susan Bartelstone's personal safety seminars at www.fightsafe.com today.
News. Opinion. Passion. Your voice counts. Call toll-free 1-866-472-5787. 1-866-472-5787. VoiceAmerica.com.
You're listening to Crime Prevention 101 with Susan Bartelstone. We invite you to share your stories, tips, or suggestions for topics you'd like us to cover, and Susan will address some of these on future shows. Send your story or idea to solutions@fightsafe.com. That email address again is solutions@fightsafe.com. Now back to Crime Prevention 101 with Susan Bartelstone.
And welcome back again. I'm so glad that you are still with me in Crime Prevention 101. I had such a great time interviewing my guests, Wayne Gurman and Bill Lappe. Wayne is a former criminal who turned his life around through creativity, and Bill was a former police officer, detective, who followed his passion, and they were able to come together. I just think it's such a great pairing, the cop and the former criminal. And again, it's BronxParadise.com. It sounds like quite an interesting film. So I'm anxious to see it myself as soon as it finds its way out there. Now, I want to finish the show with some more holiday safety tips. I want to talk now about staying safe at home during the holiday, and also talk about some of the scams that you could come across. We did earlier in the show, we talked about being safe in the parking lots. So if you didn't happen to hear that, coming in at the middle, make sure you go back when the show gets archived and listen to the tips for that, because there's still some shopping days left. Now let's talk a little bit about what to do to keep you safe at home. Unfortunately, the holidays, this is the time for scams. And I'm on all sorts of mailing lists and so forth. And I got an email from the U.S. Department of Justice, from the FBI. And they're talking about holiday season cyber scammers. And the FBI, I'm going to just read this a little if you don't mind. The FBI is reminding people this holiday season that cyber criminals continue to aggressively seek ways to steal money and personal information. And they talk about scammers are using several techniques that will fool people, sending unsolicited, including sending you unsolicited emails that contain attachments such as electronic greeting cards, a card, and I got a couple myself, as a matter of fact. So-and-so sent you a card, and it actually does look like somebody I know, but honestly, you don't ever want to click on those attachments. They also set up websites. It'll have a link to a website, and it will look like a legitimate charity or something like that, or a legitimate commercial site, and this is called spoofing. And they collect your email, and that's called phishing, with a PHISING. So you don't want to open, especially emails looking for donations during this holiday season. Now, on the non-internet level, if strangers come to the door, please stay alert. Criminals sometimes pose as delivery men bringing gifts, and you want to always ask for ID. And if you really get a really suspicious feeling about the person, call the company or the person who supposedly sent the package, and just verify that, yes, this is a UPS man, this is a scheduled delivery, and so forth. And by the way, that repairman or there's a gas leak, those are also common cons that people use to get into the apartment. Verify. If you were not expecting someone checking for a gas leak, if you were not expecting someone to read any kind of meter or the phone service, ask for ID. And I hate to say it because it is kind of easy for people to get a hold of official-looking uniforms, call the company. That's the best thing, and verify this person really is there to do what they say they're to do. It's also not uncommon for con men and con women to take advantage of people's generosities during the holidays, going door to door for charitable donations when there actually is no charity. So it can come online, and it can also come to people coming just by people knocking on the door. I just kind of don't like people to open the door. If you do want to open the door for that, just verify that it really is a legitimate charity before you give anyone money. You may actually want to stick with a charitable organization that you know, and they send you these letters in the mail and the Christmas cards and so forth. Send your check, or if you can go online to their website, as long as it's not a link that you click, go to their website and make your donation that way. And most of those you'll see on those websites, you'll see that that there is a place there. It'll have a little lock on it, which means it's a secure website. Okay, let's say you're home and you've got your Christmas tree lighted. For those of you that have Christmas trees and you put gifts under it, you may not want to leave your shades up, especially if you're going to go out, because that's very inviting. Leaving that view for people who are looking to break in somewhere. There's all those inviting gifts underneath the tree, and you may actually be inviting a burglary into the house. So if you're going out for the evening, put on your lights or have your lights on a timer so that they'll go on after you go out. They'll go on when it's dark. You might want to put on a radio or something. Make it look like someone's home, and put the shades down. Don't leave it up for somebody. So we're coming to the end of the show. As I like to say, as I do on every show, for those of you who are survivors of any kind of crime or violence or trauma of any kind, whether it's something we talked about today or not, please understand, please remember, nothing that happened to you was your fault. Even if you think that you used bad judgment in a situation and left yourself vulnerable, that is never, and I mean never, an excuse for a crime or for violence. Please call yourself a survivor and not a victim, and understand that with the proper professional help, you can put what happened into perspective and get on with your life. I've done 4 shows about different ways of healing from trauma. Please go back into the archives on my voiceamerica.com website and scroll down and find some of those shows about healing. This is a time of redemption and a time of renewal and healing, and I hope these shows do provide some help for you and some hope for you. And I also hope that the show that I did today gives even some small consolation that some of the bad guys out there really are trying to make amends and change their lives. Again, all past episodes of Crime Prevention 1 are also listed on my personal website, dearsafetysolutions.com, and I'm going to have show notes posted there. I'm going to have links to Wayne's website and Bill's websites, so you'll have them there easily. Also, if you're on the website, don't forget to go to my safety tips page. That's dearsafetysolutions.com. There's lots of good safety tips, and I'm going to have my shopping safety tips there for you. So you'll have them there to refer to. If you've got a question you'd like to ask me, if you've got a comment, if you've got a safety concern that you'd like some help with, you can respond. There's a response box right on the homepage where you can send me your questions. You can also just email me your question, solutions@fightsafe.com. Next week, show almost the end of the year, I'm going to be doing another show about redemption and about writing and filmmaking for a little different perspective than this one today. I'm going to be speaking with Richard Stratton, who is a very successful writer and filmmaker and so forth. And among other things, he was a technical consultant for the hit TV show Oz, which is about life in prison. And he came by his knowledge the hard way by spending many years in prison. So his story is fascinating. I know that you're not going to want to miss it. So I'm wishing all of you now a very, very happy holiday. And I want to tell you, stay tuned and stay safe.
We hope you got some useful information and inspiration this week on Crime Prevention 101. Susan Bartelstone invites you to join us again next Saturday at 11 a.m. Pacific Time and 2 p.m. Eastern Time here on Voice America. Have a great weekend and a safe weekend.